Welcome. Tonight is Tuesday, and it is the Tile Happy Hour. And I hope you are having a great week. Starting out, if you don't know where you are, you're in the most fun place you can arrive for the tile industry. Talking about tile, talking about all the things that have to do with our wonderful industry. And you are here. We are live right now. So we're taking your questions live, but I'm not doing it alone. I'm doing it with my good pal from up north, my brother from another mother, Mr. John Tedesco. How are you? How is the big city, John?
What's up, Craig? I'm doing really well, thank you. It's UN week in the city you mentioned, so not a good day.
Yeah,
around. It's a lot of gridlock central, but you know what?
So if you're gridlocked in the city tonight and watching us from a train or on a corner, let us know that you're still there. You're just can't get home, and anywhere else in the world that you're watching. Because John, where are we live?
We are live on YouTube. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on X, and we are live on Facebook. 4 different platforms, both of our channels, and we may even have a little line into TikTok too. Is that?
Yeah, I got a little sideline right here. You can't see it on your screen, but my TikTok family's over here. We got some people joined in here, hopefully to talk about tile and setting materials tonight. I'm excited about this episode. Last week was kind of it felt like it was all my episode just because it was about installation. I know you've got a lot of install knowledge too, being in the tile business since the early 1800s. You know about all that stuff, but that's how I learned the tile business, was in the commercial install industry. And tonight's kind of like it's almost like a secondary to that. It's like, now we went over it as a brief overview last week, and now it's like we're going to jump in and talk about some setting materials, kind of some nuances, answer some questions, and I'm excited.
I'm excited too. As you were talking, I was just thinking about other industries, say carpeting, right? How much technology is there really? It's just like the best staples.
I mean, gravity. I mean, that's
gravity. Staples.
Gravity. Yeah, the carpet industry has gravity going for. Yes, staples.
Some padding, some
padding.
tack strips. Nothing
glue
exciting.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it's not as technical as the tile industry. I mean, in a way, it's good, right? The carpet industry probably doesn't have many technical challenges too much. The tile industry does, but for good reason, because tile is intended to be very functional and to be long lasting. Literally forever.
My most watched shorts and things like that on social media are the ones where I am talking about the tile industry. And I think the one that's got the most traffic was the one where I said ceramic tile is the perfect building material. And it is. I mean, when compared to other flooring materials, ceramic tile lasts longer. It is more environmentally friendly. It's beautiful. Now, sometimes it does ugly out, but that's what we rely on you for, to tell us when it's going to come back in style, or do we need to replace it?
It happens to people. It happens to tile, whatever. They ugly out, and it happens. You got to move forward. But the thing is this, tile, we talked about sustainability. So why is it so technical? Because it offers performance, right? You're not just putting carpet down in someone's living room and then 8 years you're going to rip it out. This is something that literally you're going to put in a steam shower in your pool water line outside, around a fountain, on the front of a building, in a kitchen backsplash. So
I'd like to see you put carpet in a steam shower. It doesn't work.
It's been tried, I'm sure.
Probably so.
Austin Powers, I think, did it. I'm pretty sure. Some shag.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, we're live from all these places, but I wanted to remind everybody, this is your show. It's not my show. It's not John's show. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions. Literally the open book about anything ceramic tile. We'll try to answer it, but tonight we're focusing on setting materials. If you're watching on a playback, which, John, we get most of our traffic on playbacks. And we still answer those questions. So please put your comments in there. Let us know what's going on. And if you have questions about setting materials, something we said, hey, correct us if we're wrong, because John sometimes is wrong.
It happened at least once this year. And if you have a comment, complaints we only take for 24 hours. So
that's right. All complaints go into file 13 after 24 hours.
In the cylindrical file. So yeah, no, but we're here for you, and I'm glad that you're my co-host, and I'm glad we're together promoting tile. We are, tile nerds. We are living and breathing this industry, and it's sustained many industries, have sustained many families and businesses, and we're really proud of our industry because it really does serve a great purpose, and it really has a lot of function and it has a lot of beauty. And it makes a lot of people happy. And I really feel that we're at the right place. However we got here, we're here.
Yeah, I think between you and I, John, we make a pretty good tile person. I mean, we came from the same industry, but I'm from the installation industry. If you don't know who I am, I spent 20 plus years in the commercial installation industry, and John spent 120 years in the distribution industry. So we have different perspectives, but our goal is the same. It's to help people grow in their knowledge of tile, whether it be on the installation side or on the design side or on the distribution side. And so, together we make a pretty decent person.
Exactly. We want to tile the world, right? And
that's what I say all the time.
I've been in the industry a long time, and it's really, I've met a lot of great people, a lot of great customers, employees when I had my own business, currently a tile bar for many years. And it's just exciting to see. There's so much innovation. There really is, Craig, there's a lot, every country thinks they have like the lead or a head start on certain innovations. But I have to say, Italy and Spain, I'm super impressed by. They go to sleep at night thinking about, like, how are we going to make that tile better? How are we going to make that? And setting materials. So there's a lot of companies, like we mentioned, we had Latacrete on before, and how they, I think, single-handedly can claim that they invented thinset. Is that true?
That is true. Yeah. I mean, we loved having Ron Nash on and talk about Latacrete is how you're actually supposed to say it. I get corrected sometimes. But yeah, I mean, the innovation in setting materials, I think, has outpaced the innovation in ceramic tile. I mean, ceramic tile is almost the same today as it was hundreds, maybe even thousands of years ago. But the setting materials have jumped up in technology tremendously. Like you said, Latacrete was the first to kind of put two and two together and make a thinset mortar. And that would kind of be where we're going to start. But yet, as we start thinking about setting materials, you got to think about things before that, right, John?
Yeah. So, well, first, wherever you are out there in the World Wide Web,
internet land,
let us know where you're at, where you're watching from, in your hotel room, in your car, stuck in traffic in Manhattan. Let us know.
Yeah, comment now where you're watching from on TikTok too. I like to call out a city, a place.
Exactly. So anyway, cheers to you, Craig. Cheers to everyone out there.
Yeah, go Pack. Football season has started. The Wolf Pack, we won't talk about their anything else, but it has started.
Yeah, Jet fan here. So.
Oh gosh, yeah, Aaron Rodgers. What a good.
There was a bar in Wisconsin that was watching the first game, and they said that if the Jets lose,
right,
we'll pay for everyone's drinks. So when Rodgers got hurt, everyone racked up like.
Yeah, I bet they may have lost their money there.
Huge bills, and at the end, it happened to be a reporter.
Bless their heart. I hope Gary Vaynerchuk, if you're listening to this podcast, which probably not, I hope you do be able to buy the Jets one day. They need some assistance and your help. But getting back to the tile industry, when you start your tile project, go ahead, John.
Your word you're looking for was substrate, not substrate, but substrate.
Yes. We're not going to criticize my spelling. If you watched with us last week, John was making fun of my slides where I had misspelled things, simple words. But Yeah, substrate prep is where we start when we start talking about setting materials. And there's a lot of different ways to prep your substrate. And I'll pose this question to you is how do you get the substrate flat? That's what you need. You need a flat substrate for tile. So what's the first what comes to your mind, John, about flattening your substrate?
Well, I mean, I guess for the most part, let's talk about floors, right? Because walls is a different kind of animal, right?
Floors and floors and walls are different, and you can go about them in a couple of different ways, but there's some same ways. But let's go with floors first, because I know what you're going to say.
So floors, there are some DIY ways of kind of flattening a floor with plywood or cement board. Not really ideal, and those kind of all peak those ideas. Plywood's expensive; it could warp right when it gets wet. Cement board is not great either. It creates a nice surface to bond to. I'd rather bond to cement board than plywood, but this is where the innovation comes in, and this is where your technical experience really shines, because there are specialty thin sets or cementitious products that are called underlayments, or they're called self-leveling underlayments, and that's really where I need to go. What do you think? Do you have a go-to?
Yeah, well, coming from the commercial world, self-leveling was the go-to, because mainly in the commercial industry, you're stalling on a concrete floor, and concrete and self-leveling underlayments, they go together like peas and carrots. And that was my go-to. Now, after getting out of the commercial world and coming into this distributor world, there's a lot of residential people that are using the orange stuff, Detra. Detra is probably the most sold uncoupling membrane out there. And it took the place of, like you said, installing Durock on the floor, and it actually gave you a better substrate with some protection, because it would protect against movement. But there's new products coming out. John, I don't even know if you've seen it yet, but the downfall to Durock was it's not structural. And that was a big misconception when talking to installers and homeowners, is they wanted to add a layer of Durock to their floor to help stiffen the floor. Well, it doesn't have any tensile strength. It only has compressive strength. And like you said, it's a good surface to bond to. But Blanke actually came out with a mat that is it rolls out, and it's structural, which is really neat. And the innovations in this part of the installation are just going off the charts.
But it's uncoupling membrane also?
I think so. I'm not terribly familiar with it. Christoph and Marcus, if you're listening to this, we'd love to have you on to tell us about your permamat, is I believe what I've called. But I think so. I think it is uncoupling and structural, which is pretty cool. It's lightweight, it's thin, and it's a pretty neat system. It's relatively new. I think they just introduced it at Coverings this year. But it's a great way to fix your substrate and get it to where it needs to be. Now, what would you do on the walls, John?
Well, before we talk about the walls, can we back up a second?
Sure.
I was just talking to one of the greatest tile guys in Long Island, the Venezia Tile, Andrea, and I don't think he's ever used any of those plywood or Durock, and maybe even a self-leveling. He's learned the old school way from his dad from Italy, and they float a floor first.
Yeah.
That's really tile 101, isn't that?
Yeah, I mean, that's old school tile, and I'll tell you
what that means.
Floating
what floor means.
Say that again.
Can you explain a little about floating a floor?
Yeah. I mean, floating a floor, a mud bed, or a dry pack system, in my opinion, is the best way to get a flat floor or even a sloped floor. But it is the old way of doing things, and it takes a good tradesman and craftsman to make it happen. But if you know what you're doing, you can do anything with a mud pack system. I've been in kitchens that are all mud that had humps and valleys and dips, and to get water moved out of the way and into the right place. You can't do that with concrete. It doesn't work. And the mud is, when done right, it is super strong. It is very flexible to work with. You can get water to the drains, and it's a great system. The problem is, it takes some really skill to do it. If you know how to do it, you can save some money, because square foot wise, it's actually cheaper than all the other technologies.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Even though the raw materials have gone up, but sand and Portland are certainly cheaper than Durock and plywood and
absolutely
all these membranes. So we talked about the floor. So yeah, I'm in the Northeast, and a lot of old school Italian tile guys came to US, and they taught a lot of people. So there's a lot of that still going on.
Yeah.
And those guys really, not from an arrogant standpoint, but they just roll their eyes when they see, other guys doing other methods, because it's what they know. But you just don't go in. I don't think they teach. I don't know. Do they teach you that in tile school now? Mud floors?
When I went to tile school, and believe it or not, there's actually a thing. Yeah, they actually taught us how to do that. And I believe when you take your certified tile installer's test, there is a section on it about floating a mud bed and when and how to do that. So I think it is taught, but it's not easy work. So I don't think it is practiced as much as it used to be.
I talked to this German tile guy who went to tile school in Germany, and he showed me, he's like, give me a tile and get a pair of nippers. And he literally showed how he cut a hole in the middle of the tile with the nippers by scoring and tapping. He's like, you have to pass this test in Germany. You have to show that you can do like all these maneuvers with tile snippers or nippers. And here it's a lot of places in America, getting a license is literally just so they could make sure you have insurance and fingerprinted in case you run with someone's deposit, but often doesn't indicate that you have any particular skills. I know there are some states like Florida that have a lot of trade licenses where you have to actually pass, some tests on aptitude. But you asked about walls. Walls are trickier because walls, I guess you're not necessarily addressing a leveling issue. Maybe you are, but it's more of you want a proper substrate for maybe some waterproof areas. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, walls are different, but the key, and here's one thing that I used to get asked this question a lot by architects and designers. We need a flat floor, not necessarily a level floor.
We clicked on that, right? It doesn't have to be perfectly level in a 20-foot span. It could be.
It's just got to be flat. Yeah. Right. And same thing with a wall. The wall it has to be flat, and it got to have a good surface to bond with. The walls to me seem a little bit easier because you don't have to bend down to do them. But if you are going on like a Durock, you prep your walls and skim the joints, and then you're normally good to go. Shout out to Venenzi Tile #1.
Yeah, well, that's who I just called out. I didn't know he was watching. So Andrea he's literally one of the best tile guys in New York for sure. Andrea, you need to share your thoughts on mud job. Where did you learn how to do mud job? And have you done anything other than a mud job on the floor? And then we also had somebody watching from Streetsboro, was it Ohio? What was that?
Yeah, Rick Crane is hanging out in Streetsboro, Ohio, selling some glass tile. Welcome, Rick. He is our unofficial residence glass tile expert. And #1 tile happy hour fan.
That's it. Yeah, Rick is must be on the road today, and that's good to have him on. Yeah, Rick's been in the industry for a long time, and so Craig, so what the heck's all these big foam pieces that people are cutting and putting on walls, or these?
That is a great question, John. The foam has taken over the industry. I can't
wrap my arms around. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I can't wrap my arms how this orange stuff that you put on the floor with little bumps in them and the walls of foam. That it just doesn't. just the Italian in me wants to put cement everywhere, not plastic.
Well, you want to weigh everything down, John. We're trying to lighten up everything, and we're trying to figure out how to how to make it a little more efficient. And foam, I don't know who invented it first. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Schluter. It may have been Weedy. Weedy started with that, and that's WEDI. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Who came up with the foam panels first? But it was a lightweight way to get waterproof boards on a wall. And then they started figuring out that if they made it in a certain way, it could be structural. And they started making benches and curbs and everything out of it. Now shower pans are made out of it, and everybody has their own. You know, Weedy, of course, Schluter, of course, kind of brought it up, and then Latacrete has their own. And now, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know which is better. You guys out there, tell me. It has made putting a shower together so easy, it almost feels like anybody can do it, which is dangerous, but yet good, I guess.
That's a reckless statement.
It is a reckless statement. We got a couple of things coming out. Oh, he answered your question. His father taught him the mud job. He said that's all he'll do. He probably doesn't buy any foam.
Not in this world. And then oh yeah. First generation, that's how. Yeah. And yeah, I've seen him in action, and it's amazing. Yeah. It really is.
Rick asks, where would a new contractor go for industry standards and materials? It's TCNA question mark. Yeah, there's two things that I think every tile contractor should carry in their truck. That's the TCNA manual, and the TCNA manual is installation. That'll pretty much give you the nuts and bolts of any installation out there for the most part. And it's normally up to date within a couple of years. And then the other book is your ANSI book. Say that again.
What does TCNA stand for?
Tile Contractors of North America. And what they are is a I don't know if it's nonprofit or not, but it sounded good. A group of industry professionals who they literally debate on how to install tile in this certain area, a steam room, and they'll go through it and they'll vote on it. And so it's not just one person's opinion. It's a group of people that have collectively come together, and they'll say, hey, if you have this set of circumstances, you need to use this procedure, and it'll give you the best chance of success. So that's what the TCNA is. The other book that you need to kind of have in your back pocket is the ANSI, your ANSI standards. And those will give you what the tile should be made by. That's section 137.1. That's a lot of numbers you're not going to remember. And then it'll tell you how the tile, if it's out of spec, if it meets this, it should look like this. If it's out of shade. So those two books, or volumes of books, will help you get started. And one thing I wanted to mention, and Rick, this is a good thing to bring up here, is if you're interested in being trained, the CTEF, which is the Ceramic Tile Education Foundation, they certify installers. And John, I know you talked about certain states have certifications. This certification is kind of unique. Anybody can take the test. Anybody can pass the test. And it's not easy. But you pass this test, it means you have the basic knowledge of performing and having a great tile installation. And also, for those of you out there that are looking for a tile installer, go to Google CTEF, and they'll give you a list of certified contractors. This way, you know these guys have passed a certain set of standards. So that's kind of my little standard.
Yeah. You know what? It's interesting. ANSI spec 392.4. I'd like to talk. No, I'm just messing with you. I wanted to sound smart.
I was going to say 392. I know 137.1 pretty well and 108 pretty decently. I'm not sure about that one.
You could pull those. Could be completely wrong, and no one's here to correct you. It's like,
yeah, we got a thumbs down. No foam.
No foam.
No foam. But John, let's talk about, we talked about foam, and let's kind of bridge our way into waterproofing a little bit, because
Okay.
waterproofing and crack isolation, we'll talk about those together. They are a big deal in the industry. And why is that? It's because tile a lot of times is used in wet areas. Most all of us around the world, in our bathrooms, in our showers, at our gyms, there is ceramic tile.
Right.
And therefore, in those areas, you need to make sure, water is deceptive. You need to make sure that the water goes down the drain and out of the building. And if you don't use waterproofing correctly, or you don't use it in the right way or in the right place, you can have a mess on your hands and have to redo your tile project. And so, waterproofing is a big deal. I'm a fan of the painted on waterproofing. I love the Hydroban. I was part of one of the test groups that got Hydroban before it was actually released. And
So you were inhaling a lot of that. That explains a lot.
Yeah. But waterproofing and crack isolation is critical.
Is that the blue stuff, or is that the Mapei is the blue stuff?
It depends. I'm not sure what color Mapei's is. Hydroban is a olive green. Hydro Barrier, which is kind of the cousin to Hydroban, is the light blue. And then you have your Red Guard, which is Customs product, which is red. I'm not sure what color Mapei's is. If anybody knows what color Mapei's waterproofing is, put that in the comments.
I've seen pictures of the red, like people show like before and afters, like when they're prepping, and it's a little daunting. You walk in, you see this red. It's really
yes, it is. Yeah,
a little scary.
Yeah, and just like he mentioned, Kerdi, the sheet membrane is very popular. People use that everywhere. I was really skeptical about Kerdi just because I know thinset is not waterproof, and the joints are put together with thinset. But then I went and toured the factory, and they convinced me. I think the Kerdi membrane system and other ones like it are really good. It takes a little more talent to put the Kerdi on than it does the regular paint on stuff, but I've heard that comment too. Red Guard has failed for me.
You know what? There are some contractors that literally say, "I'll never use that brand grout because it failed for me," or like,
yep.
And this guy swears by it. So sometimes it's just like a lot of circumstances that personal experiences, right?
But I'll tell you, the way to ruin a tile project is to not do the waterproofing correctly. You will get to do it again, and probably.
So explain this. So you have sheetrock, or not sheetrock in the shower. What are you putting in the shower? What's the substrate?
It could be cement board. It could be foam board. It could be sheetrock if you're using Kerdi. I believe Kerdi allows you to install over sheetrock. I think in my opinion, that's a little dangerous. But they make Den Shield is another product used commercially a lot. I hate Den Shield, but it has a polyurethane face on it.
Yeah, isn't it like a fiber? It's almost like a sheetrock with fiberglass and some kind of coating on the outside. Is that how they make that?
That's exactly what it is. And the problem is, it's a great product, but it's rarely installed correctly, at least in my experience. The sheetrock guys normally will pick that up in their commercial job, and they'll go through it and install it just like normal sheetrock, and you can't. It's different. It's special, and they never finish the job, and so it's a failure waiting to happen. As with anything not installed correctly.
Well, it's true. Do they need like mesh tape instead of regular tape? Is that like special?
It's actually a sealant that all the joints and all the screw holes have to be sealed with their. I think they have a special sealant
right there, right? If the guy, it's like buying a $1,000 big steel door and not locking your door, right? So you get all this stuff and you don't seal, you don't caulk the seams or the holes or whatever.
And water because it has a sheetrock or a gypsum base, you're done. That
isn't aren't there dense shield products like that are under the name dense shield, but like for outside of buildings and things like that? I think I've seen.
Yes. Yeah. DenShield, it's a USG product.
Right.
And so they have all different scenarios. And you got to make sure if you're buying DenShield, you get the right one, because not all of them are meant to be outside. You know, there's one for outside, there's one for siding, and there's also one for tile. You gotta read the details.
Wow. So we're just up to like waterproof membrane here, right? So we got the substrates kind of outlined a little.
Yeah.
And then next is you got to stick the stuff to the wall.
You got to stick it to the wall or floor. You got to have something to hold it there other than gravity.
Yeah. So nails and screws, right?
Nails and screws are preferable. No. The most common adhesive for tile is thinset mortar, and thinset's kind of a generic term now. There are many different versions today, and even though you're saying thinset, you can be talking about a large and heavy tile mortar, which they used to call medium bed mortars, and there's all these different variations. But I guess the definition is it's not the traditional mortar set like that. You can trial it out with a trowel. It's a one-step process to get this mortar underneath your tile and get it stuck.
And so the purpose of the thinset, we'll use the word adhesive, but when I hear adhesive, I think of organic adhesive, a paste premix.
Yes.
So adhesive, I usually refer to that. Thinset is cementitious, but not a mud. It's not being created on the job, right? It's a product in a bag, pre-made. It has certain characteristics, and it has certain performance levels depending on what price you want to pay, and also certain performance characteristics, right? You need something that has some movement to it, or something that sticks to glass, where glass has no porosity, where a ceramic tile may have porosity on the back.
Exactly.
So
yeah. There is a flavor of, when you're going through the thinset buffet, you need to make sure you know what you're getting, because like you said, there are mortars made especially for glass tile, and it's critical that you use a mortar that's made for it. Now, if you don't, will it fail? I don't know, but it's not made for it. And that you got to trust that chemistry. All of these setting material manufacturers have spent millions of dollars doing research, pull tests, all these things to find out what works best for a sect of materials. The biggest one now is large and heavy tile. Any tile over 15 inches, you need to make sure that your tile is rated. I think it's 118.5 is the ANSI rating for that mortar that'll sustain a large and heavy tile.
Yeah, and that's actually, that used to be the anomaly, the odd tile. Now that's like becoming normal to be that large, and contractors need to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I look at our offerings from Tile Bar. We only have 4 thinsets that we stock. Now we have access to as many as you want, but all 3 of the 4 are large and heavy tile thinsets.
Wow.
And that's because the majority of the material we sell is over 15 inches. But the good thing about that, most of those materials, you can use it for smaller tiles. So it's kind of multi-use. You can always, and as we talked about last week, the tile size directly gauges how much thinset you put under your tile with your trowel. So trowel size is not equal, but derived from tile size.
So you're saying a 12 by 24 is considered a large tile?
Yes. The definition of a large and heavy tile, correct me if I'm wrong, but is anything with one side over 15 inches.
Yeah, I didn't have
That's
my
kind of that
so
designated point where you've got to cross over into that different spec zone.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if 15, if it was 24 was over 15, so I had to verify that with
you did go to school in New York, so I understand that. But I have 15 digits at least, so I was able to count that.
All right, that's good. I'm proud of you. So
I do
yeah,
not have 24 digits, contrary to popular belief. But yeah, thinsets, and let's quickly talk about adhesives. You know, and we think of adhesives as mastics, and as good as they are today, I'm still scared because the only guy I ever fired in my life off of a job site, he was using a organic mastic in a shower, which is a big no-no. I know today, and probably people are going, well, you can now. It says you can now. Maybe you can, but I'm still scared. It's like, you know, once you fall off the bike, it's hard to get back on. And I don't want to see anybody's shower be ruined by an organic mastic. But I will say, for a backsplash, something that is, you know, always read the directions. It's a really good way to begin setting tile if you've never done it before. A mastic is pretty easy.
Right. Well, but areas that aren't that demanding, like a backsplash, it's not being flooded with water or steam, even though it's by a
Absolutely.
sink. People are worried about the sink or a stove. That's really nothing to worry about. So yeah, that's a good place to do the DIY project. Although the backsplash in your kitchen is the first thing people see, so it is a good DIY place because it's hard for a lot of the environment to cause a failure.
Yeah.
But aesthetically, if you don't know how to cut and you don't know how to grout and you don't know how to put tile straight, you could really ruin your really nice kitchen. So,
yeah.
You know, it is something to think about. I mean, I've been around long enough where when people used to buy regular thinset, right, that 50-pound bag, we called it C-Mix. It was $9.99 a bag, and white was $12.95 a bag. And this was before porcelains were really mainstream. And every contractor didn't like listen at the time, and they would come back and say, I put this tile down, it's all popping up. There's something wrong with the tile. Like, no, it's porcelain. You can no longer use the basic.
That with porcelain, yeah.
You got to
go. The number one tile setter in New York wants to come on and talk about how certain things don't stick. So, John, you got to set that up for us.
All right, let's do it. Andrea as a guest.
So
I love the topic.
let's switch it up a little bit, John, and take a break, because you sent me something this week that has nothing to do with setting materials. I mean, I don't understand why you sent it to me. I mean, you knew the topic.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You didn't know the topic, but you sent me your product highlight. So I think now's a good time to take a look at that.
Yeah, every week, product highlight. This is Friday's product highlight. Come check it out. Hey, it's John Tedisco. Guess what? It's Friday and it's happy hour all day today at Tile Bar. You're going to love this. Elizabeth Sutton is so dynamic. She created a line of glass called Meta. You got to come check this out. This is art glass. This is like stained glass. These 2x5 chips, blues and greens. Look at this combination. Creams, little creases, little pockets of air bubbles, swirls that are marbleized. This is one colorway. This is another colorway. This has rose and gold and cream and purple. Really nice. Look at this vibrant turquoise. Imagine that in a backsplash or a bathroom. Some kind of iridized mirrored effects. And this is a cool silver gray platinum combination. Really hot. This stuff is nice. It is live on a website. Check it out. This is John Tedisco. I'd like to wish you a happy. What do you think of that tile?
So speaking of glass tile, that's some pretty fancy glass tile you got there, John. I love it.
A good lead in. Like, what would you use? That's not an inexpensive product, and it's a very, very thin stained glass type of material, art glass. What would you use to?
Yeah. Oh, my go-to for installing that would be Laticrete's glass tile adhesive. I mean, they got really creative with the name there. It says it all in there. It has all of the. It's probably more latex than it is cement, just because of that very reason. And for those nerds out there, I am a tile nerd. You want cement makes a mechanical bond, so it actually goes into the pores of material and grabs onto it. You know, it looks like that. But when you have an impervious material like glass, you need a chemical bond, which that's what the latex is for, and that's what Laticrete invented. But now it's dry latex. The water hydrates it. and it becomes really sticky. And I have done a pull test with our Requiem glass and the glass tile adhesive, and you can't get it off. I mean, it comes off in small pieces and chunks, and it's amazing.
So for the glass, we need glass tile thinset. That's what's called.
Glass tile. Well, the actual name of it is a mortar, but it's called glass tile adhesive because adhesive. Even though we kind of jump back to that mastic, it's not. It's a mortar, but it's called glass tile adhesive.
When you were talking about taking this position with Tile Bar and they wanted to test you, they would say, "So, Craig, what thinset would we use for glass?" And you're like, glass tile adhesive. Yes.
Yes, that's right. And they're like, "That's perfect. He's a genius."
Yes, exactly.
But that tile is it's beautiful. I love that series. I love our collaborations, and I think that's what's unique about Tile Bar. And I know this is not a Tile Bar show, but when we bring on a designer and they're able to put their flavor on something that we have and it's exclusive to us, I think that's pretty neat. We got a shout out on TikTok 254, which 254 will hold glass tile and anything else that sticks to it. That is some strong stuff.
Is that Ardex?
No, it's Latacrete also. 254. Latacrete with their thin sets, they kind of have a numbering system. It starts at 252, which is your most basic, barely meets the ANSI spec thin set, and then it goes all the way up to 255, I believe, which is what we carry, which is the Multi-Max cream of the crop. It's got the highest bond strength, all that good stuff. And 254 is the step below it, and a great mortar.
So it's a good day when you have 255 in the truck.
It's a good day, but you were talking earlier, and we got a laughing face here. It's not $9.99 a bag, I'll tell you that. Those days are gone, friend.
It was $9.99. I remember. Then we had a company here that was kind of northeast based called SuperTech, and they made something called One Step, which is one of the first latex fortified thin sets. And contracts like $17.95 a bag for gray and $19.95 for white. They were freaking out that it was double the price. I'm like, yeah, but the flexibility of a regular thin set was like a few percent, and the flexibility of one was like 18 or 20%. I forget what the percentages were, but it's a good day when you. Speaking of day, I'm going to try to stump you right now.
Oh no!
Let's put up. Today is National Day. It's not National Tile Day. That's only one day a year.
That's right. So today, and if you've never watched the show before, John always does this. Every day is a national day of something. So John likes to see if I know what's going on in the world, but he doesn't realize I don't have doors to this room here. I stay here all the time. I barely leave. So
that's true.
I have no idea what's going on in the world.
So maybe you got the interweb. Maybe you could figure it out. All right. So today, Craig, is National Talk Like a Pirate Day, or Cafeteria Workers Day, or Butterscotch. It's really Butterscotch pudding. I think we truncated that. So Talk Like a Pirate Day, Cafeteria Workers Day, or Butterscotch Pudding Day. So it's two truths and a lie. Two of these are correct, and one of these is not. And for $1, which is the wrong one? Which one does not exist?
Okay. Well, I will say that I'm pretty confident today is Talk Like a Pirate Day, and I know that because I went to ECU and I graduated ECU, and I am a pirate.
Okay.
R for all those pirates out there. And Butterscotch Day, I don't think it is fall enough for butterscotch, so I'm gonna say butterscotch is the lie.
Okay, final answer.
Final answer. Butterscotch is the lie for today.
All right. So I've stumped you once again. It is not Cafeteria Workers Day. It is Butterscotch Pudding Day for some reason, and Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Well, at least I got 1 out of 3 right.
That's true. That's true. Well, I did stump you there a little, and Craig usually tries to stump me once in a while, but not always working.
Well, let's talk about grout, and then I'll see if I can. I've got one thing planned here.
Right.
But we talked grout in my second to substrate prep and all that other technological stuff that goes under the tile. Grouts to me are the ones that have made the biggest difference in the industry. They went from a problem back in the early 2000s. None of them stayed the same color. They cracked easily. They flaked out. They were very water sensitive. To now, there's so many different flavors and types. It's hard to find those problems today, and that's because of innovation and the I don't know who started it, but the companies, the big ones out there, have just really started pounding each other and trying to make a better, stronger, more color consistent grout. And I think they've done it.
You know what? Grout was always the weak link in the tile industry. It was the biggest topic for callbacks for installers, for distributors, from grout discoloring, from grout pigment streaks, from, well, people had leaks, and it really is not a grout problem because if even without grout, you know, a shower shouldn't leak, right? If water gets
right, grout is not waterproof in any stretch of the imagination. Yeah,
you always get that call from the homeowner saying, "My grout is I have a leak in the second floor. I probably need to be regrouted." But then again, maybe they do, because if you don't have the proper substrate and waterproofing, and water is getting in there, it's bringing that to light. But in general, grout's not supposed to be a waterproof element. But yeah, technology has been phenomenal with grout, and there is a grout product called Permacolor from Latacrete, and there are variations of that. There's like a super duper version of it, but even the mainstream regular Latacrete Permacolor, I think the biggest advantage of it is the fact that you don't need to know how big the grout joint is or how small, because it goes from like a 16th or so to quarter inch or more. I don't know what's the range on a
well, good question. Let's talk about the different kind of stages of grout in the cement grout world today. You've got your traditional sanded and non-sanded, and that's the question. I get that a lot. Which one do I need for this grout? And because that's kind of outdated technology, I don't even answer that question anymore. I just lead them to another product. But back in the day, a sanded grout was an 1/8 of an inch grout joint or larger, and it would pretty much fail after you got past a 1/2 of an inch. It just couldn't handle that. And then non-sanded was an 1/8 of an inch or smaller. But now with your high performance grouts, these grouts are high test. They have very small particles. They have a lot of latex in them. I mean, some of them have Kevlar and they got all kinds of technology in there.
Kryptonite.
And you're right. It'll go down to a 1/16 of an inch, all the way up to, some of them can go up to a 3/4 of an inch thick without cracking. And that really opens the door wide for probably 95% of the products there. And you mentioned Permacolor. We got somebody on TikTok, Espinosa Tile. They like Mape. Mape's switchover or crossover is Ultracolor FA, which is a great grout. I used that for years at one of my companies. Those grouts are my go-to. I love the high performance cement based grouts. I think they're color consistent. They can work for almost anything, and they're super strong.
It's in the 6 years I'm with Tile Bar, I've never had one grout callback. With people saying the grout shading and stuff like that. So I'm just realizing here that Andrea Tuda must be using his daughter's account. It says Ava Tuda. I just picked up on that. What's crazy is most thing that stresses him out is the color of the grout at the end of the job. Yeah, because you're doing this whole job, and when you take the tile out of the box and it's a blue tile, you stick it on the wall. That's what the customer wants. That's what they pay for. That's what they approve. The grout, they went by a paper chart, and then the tile guy's got to mix it up, spread it. If you don't mix it properly, you could contribute to shade variations. If you don't have clean water, right? If you mix it too fast.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot easier today. Like I said, the high performance grouts have taken some of that. You can still mess it up. Don't get me wrong, but most of the bags now are, in multiple different languages, and they have pictures, which I appreciate because I don't read well. And if you mix them, and the key thing, and this goes back to thinset also, the key thing to anything is following the instructions. And especially on your grout and your thinset is following those time suggestions. If it tells you to mix it for 3 to 5 minutes, mix it for 3 to 5 minutes. If it tells you to let it slake for 3 to 5 minutes, let it slake. Those things are critical to get the chemistry to work correctly. And back in the day, it was add a little bit of water here to make it a little better. It's a little too wet. Let me add a little bit more. And it was job site chemistry. And that job site chemistry played with the colors a lot. But today, it's not as big of a deal, but it can be.
It's kind of like, you know, cooking a barbecue is kind of like putting carpet down. It's whatever, just whatever way, this is how you do it. But putting grout in, it's like being a pastry chef. You can't, if they're supposed to get like a quarter teaspoon of baking powder, you can't put a tablespoon. And
that's right. That's right.
Right. So it's a little more, have to be finessed. It's really more of a chemistry project, right? Not a barbecue. And
agreed.
You have to really be careful. I know, you know, contractors in the past, when there was the sanded, non-sanded, typical grout, you know, add a little of this, add a little of that, you know, make their own version of grout. If the tile's a little thinner or wider. And but I'm glad now that it's much more foolproof than it was in the past.
And a good point brought up here on TikTok is the instructions are important because it could be a rapid setting grout. And I have seen many YouTube video made of somebody installing rapid setting grout, and they thought it was regular grout and have ruined their installation. I mean,
there's an easy way to fix that.
Yeah, demo and buy more tile.
Yeah, sledgehammer.
Yeah. Really quick before I try to stump you, a couple of other new advances is
you don't want to be embarrassed that I'm gonna, you know, win again. So you're trying to hold off on trying to stump me. So I see what's happening.
Yeah. There's a whole another section of grouts that are pre-mixed, and they're all different flavors and colors. Some of them have some stain resistant capabilities. Some of them are just convenient, and the technology in those things make it really easy to use. I like the Spectralock one, the Bostic Dimension. My haze is called Ultra Cure, I think. I can't remember now. But all those things are really great grouts. The good thing is, if you're for the commercial industry, they were really nice because you had a bucket and you could close the bucket back up and take it into the next room and keep going. So it had some shelf life to it even after it was open. So that's another segment of the grout, and they're very color consistent.
It is. Well, not only color consistent, some of those products like Dimension Grout, when you open the bucket, the color you see is the color that it's going to dry. There's no air curing.
No
right?
guessing. Yeah.
It's a chemical cure. So what you see is what it will end up to be, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that is correct. And like I said, all of them are a little bit different. I actually did a comparison on my YouTube channel between the Bostic Dimension and the Spectralock 1 grout. And both of them had their pros and cons. If you want to go watch that video, it was great. I looked good in it. And I set some glass tile, which was really cool. They both have their unique capabilities to them. But once again, reiterate Espinosa on TikTok. Read the directions because they're critical. Are you ready to be stumped?
I am, but I just want to make a comment. I think once a contractor like falls in line with something that they like through trial and error, I think they become so experienced at it that even if you offer them another grout that people could say it's better or that has some other qualities, there's something to be said about having success with the particular product they're using. And if they notice something wrong, if you use it all the time, you know if something's not right. So I think it's healthy to have like your go-to setting material, you go to bonding agent, you go to grout, and when you're applying it, or if you have your workers or your helpers doing stuff, you may be able to pick up on a problem before it becomes a disaster. So it is good that but at the same time, keep an open mind, because sometimes some guys still locked into the old way of doing things.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I would never talk a tile setter out of their favorite setting material as long as they're logical about it. And because you're right, their nuances, if they use it all the time, they know the open time. They know that, and it's going to make them more money, which I want them to make as much money because they can, and because I'm going to get a better job. And I 100% agree with that.
Sure. All right, I'm ready to be stumped.
So this is the last call. This is the last question that we're gonna get into this episode. And if you've never been on the episode before, this is an actual question from an actual client. And I've already answered the question, but now I want to see if John knows the answer to the question. And I actually have a what do you call it? A show and tell for this one.
Oh,
I'm gonna add that there, and let's see if you can put your glasses on, John. So anybody out there watching, if you want to try to answer the question, we'll stall a little bit and see if you can get it before John does. But here's the question. Customer called in and said hold on, let me make sure I'm reading the right one. Okay, I should have highlighted it ahead of time. Customer says that the tiles they installed did not come out flat or flush. Is there anything that she can do to fix it, or was it just a poor install? So this is actually a filtered comment from the team member, but you see what they're looking at there. And those of you on TikTok, I'm sorry you can't see that, but they're looking at a bathroom floor. It's a 12 by 24. And it is set on a third offset, but the light is off in the room, and they have a light shining on the floor across the tile. And they're saying that the tile is defective because of the different shadows that are falling across the tile. And it looks like there's really bad lippage. So the question to you, John, is number one, is there anything they can do to fix it? And is this tile defective?
First place, that looks horrible. It really looks bad. So no, there's nothing you can do to fix it. What went wrong? At first glance, it looked like it was not a third. It looked like it was 50-50, but it gets the angle. So they kind of did the right thing by offsetting it. It looks like it's a 12 by 24 tile, so it's not incredibly long. The biggest thing that stands out to me is there's no grout joint. So when you have it butting up against each other, you're doomed for failure. And also, when you take a light and you shine it in that when you orientate the light on the floor, it's going to bring out the lippage, but there's still something wrong there. It's not right. At first, I didn't even think they got grout. I don't even know what happened in there. That is just really scary. So I don't think it's a defective tile, because even though tiles can be defective, when a tile company makes a product, they'll spit out 40,000 square feet like in one run. If it happens to be a defective, production, it gets caught right away, but that doesn't even happen anymore. I have to give the benefit of the doubt to the material, because the technology is such that looks terrible. The lighting is really exasperating it, but no grout, too close. And maybe they use Velcro instead of thinset on the bondage, but I don't know. So I don't know if you have any more info, but what do you think?
That's all the info I have. And let's see, we got, do we need to say anything else? It's a bad install.
Bad install.
I'm going to agree. The culprit here is the lighting. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but here's my theory. They don't like the way they looked, and so they have adjusted the lighting to make it look as bad as possible in hopes that somebody other than themselves will have to pay to fix it. I don't know that to be true, but I would almost guarantee you cut on the above overhead light it'll go away. You won't even notice it. But I do agree with you. The grout joint is too small for that tile. If it's a 1/16 of an inch, I'd be surprised. It looks smaller than that. And you should always dry lay your tile out. And if they have any imperfections, making the grout joint a little larger can help.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree that the lighting is making it look maybe twice as worse, but it looks 100 times bad. You know what I'm saying? Like I think if you put that floor and close your eyes, you would feel that lippage, and I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
But what about leveling clips?
Yeah, I agree with you. Leveling clips would have helped a ton here. Espinosa Tile on TikTok asked, or if it's natural stone, you can buff it out. That is true. If it's natural stone, you could grind the floor and it'll come out. I do believe leveling clips with a proper setting bed or proper large heavy tile mortar, that would go away completely. I'm convinced it's an install issue, and there is no way to fix it.
You know, there's another way of, let's say I have a really pretty person, male or female. If you take that pretty person, you turn all the lights off and you put like a flashlight under your chin, you get pretty ugly, right? So it's just
Absolutely.
Like the shadows. So it is really making it look worse here. But look at that tile in the middle. The corners aren't even lining up. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah. It was poorly done. Yes. And if the tile were out of spec, you would know it before you installed it. That's how out of spec it has to be to not look good. This was just a poor install that now they're unhappy with, and trying to figure out how to fix it. So John, you did good. That was a good. Of course, once again, I did not stump you. And Espinosa on TikTok said, "Yeah, the way to fix it is tear it out."
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed. Well, yes, I preach this every day. All tiles are bowed. All tiles are bowed. It's impossible to have a ceramic tile without it having some sort of warpage. And there is a degree of warpage, but anything fired is not going to be perfectly square.
Well, that's where you need a professional. A tile guy is going to come in. If something happens to be perfect, then a novice could just get it done. But that's where you need an installer. When a curveball, if you happen to get a tile that's a little more bowed, or the substrate is not as good as you thought, a tile guy would A, know how to address it, and B, stop the job and not install it. If you're a heart surgeon and someone delivers, a donor heart and something's wrong, or a stent and it's the wrong one, he's not going to just go ahead and proceed with it. He's going to say, hold on, stop. We have a problem. It's the wrong stent. So that's where a professional comes in, is when a challenge comes up, they know how to fix it. And if they don't, they'll stop the job. So look, we could talk forever. And this has been really, really good. I'm glad that we had 2 weeks in a row talking technical, talking about product, talking about sealers, right? We talked about sealers last time and all sorts of good stuff. So this has been great. We have some really great guests coming up. So everybody, if you're watching this live, thank you for watching. If you're watching this on a rerun, if you want to put comments, please put them in. We'll reply to you. This is John Tedisco. I'd like to wish you guys a happy hour and peace, health, and happiness.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in. I love talking tile. I hope you'll come back next week, Tuesday at 8 o'clock. We're going to have a great conversation again. Join in. Hey, bring some friends with you. And don't forget, none of us know it all, but we all keep learning together, and we're just going to tile the world.